Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good
Good
evening, sir.
evening.
We welcome you all to the second day of this Atal AICT sponsored faculty development program on From Goals to Outcome Designing Education for Measurable SDG Impact, organized by Teerthanker Mahaveer University, Muradabad, India. Today, we are privileged to host another insightful session on mapping program and course outcome to SDGs, to be delivered by Dr. Wan Zuhainis Saad, Director, Center for Academic Development and Leadership Excellence, University, Putra, Malaysia. Dr. Wan Zuhainis is an eminent academic leader and award-winning educator with extensive experience in higher education, innovation, curriculum in transformation, and academic excellence. She has previously served as the Director of Academic Excellence Division, Ministry of Higher Education, Malaysia, and has been recognized with honors such as National Academic Award Teaching Pure Science Cluster 2018 and the Higher Education E-Learning Master Award 2023. Her international role include advisory position with the UK Malaysian University Consortium, University Technology Petronas, and serving as an expert consultant for academic transformation in Cambodian higher education. The theme of today's session, mapping program and course outcome to SDG, is of great importance in today's education system. Aligning academic program and course outcome with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals enables university to integrate sustainability and social responsibility into the core of teaching and learning. This mapping ensures that higher education does not remain confined to theoretical instruction, but actively contributes to addressing global challenges such as poverty eradication, gender equality, climate action, and quality education. We are truly honored to have Dr. Wan Zuhainis Saad with us today to share her insight on how institutions can strategically integrate SDGs into their academic framework and achieve measurable, meaningful education impact. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for having me today to share with everyone on the topic that was given to me, mapping the programs and course outcome to SDGs. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah, perfectly
Okay.
fine.
Okay, thank you so much again, Dr. Neha, and for having me. As mentioned earlier, my experience in developing academic program, although my background is actually, actually a microbiologist from the Faculty of Biotechnology and Biomolecular Sciences, but my passion is about educational technology, higher education policies. So when we in Malaysia, we were tasked to we have this what we call the Malaysian qualification agencies in Malaysia, and ever since 2017 we have what we call the Malaysian qualification framework. I'm sure some of you are familiar with these accreditation agencies, where we have the learning domains, the 5 clusters of learning domains, and that structured when we design our academic programs. So in 2024, last year, a new framework was the Malaysian qualification framework, with these new 4 elements were introduced, where all of our Malaysian higher education will need to comply by 2026, August next year. where in our program we must instill or infuse or embed a values-based education, flexible learning pathway, global sustainability agenda, and harmonization of the framework or with the existing occupational framework or through professional bodies. So when we in my center, we have actually embarked in the global sustainability agenda way before this framework was introduced. So when we when we want to discuss about how we embed our sustainability agenda into the curriculum, we should be looking into what is so sorry. Okay, when we talk about global sustainability agenda in the curriculum, we should be looking into how we can map that with the Sustainable Development Goal. From the earlier presenters yesterday with the vice chancellors and how showing the policies and the governance in initiatives that you have embarked in the green initiatives in your universities and other universities. I think that is that is a very amazing initiative that you have in your universities. The reason why we need to ensure that our students in the higher education able to have the experience and to be able to acquire the skill set that they need, okay, in terms of the sustainability is when if the students, okay, if the initiatives or an educator, okay, if they design the learning activities based on their own initiatives and not in the curriculum itself, then the students, the experience that the student acquire is actually by chance. Whereas when we have this design into our curriculum, then the students will acquire the knowledge, the skill by design. So when the global sustainability agenda is required to be embedded in the curriculum and in the program, the question is how do we map, okay, or how do we ensure that our students would be able to have that knowledge about sustainability? How our students able to contribute to try to solve propose solution to a problem. When we talk about the 17 goals of the Sustainable Development Goals, they are actually issues that have been nicely placed for us to address. So how do we ensure that our students would be able to contribute to that? The answer to that is by embedding those skill set into the curriculum. So when you when the topic given to me about mapping the cost program, okay, the cost and the program's outcomes to the SDG, I'm looking at it through education for sustainable development because the key competencies, okay, for sustainability can be acquired when these key competencies are embedded in the curriculum development, in the program development, in the course learning outcome. Now, in our qualification framework, we have these 5 clusters where we have knowledge, we have cognitive skill, we have practical skills, we have numeracy skills, right? Interpersonal skill, communication, digital. So there are actually 11 of it, all these functional skills and the learning domains. Now, with the key competencies for sustainability, there are 8 of these key competencies. Later we will discuss more on the key competencies. So why do we explore about education for sustainable development? When we talk about SDG, how does this education for sustainable development comes in? Because education for sustainable development, not only it has been introduced in other universities as well, like the UK through Advanced HE and through their QAA, they have come up with this guideline on education for sustainable development since 2021, for example, and of course from the UNESCO guideline. And how do we inspire our learners to make informed decision and to take action and to become a responsible citizen? So through education for sustainable development, where it is defined as education that encourages and empower learners of all ages for them to be able to acquire the knowledge, the skill, the values, the attitude to make informed decision, to take responsibility to shape a sustainable future. So for them to contribute to the 17 SDGs. And the education for sustainable development, it was actually introduced way back in 1992. And in 2020, at the 40th UNESCO World Conference on ESD, the framework for education for sustainable development, they call it as ESD for 2030, was introduced. So it was actually relaunched in 2020, and ESD for 2030 actually will promote the integration of sustainable development and the SDGs into the education, so that this will actually ensure education and learning into all activities that promote sustainable development. And in the UNESCO World Conference on Education for Sustainable Development in 2021, they have made a declaration. And if you can see that, ensure that ESD is a foundational element, and also to integrate ESD into all levels of education and training from early childhood to tertiary and adult education, including TVET, and into formal, non-formal, and informal learning, so that all these individuals, they are provided with lifelong and life-wide experiential learning for sustainable development. So all these declaration was published by UNESCO during the conference. And what is actually ESD for 2030? It is actually a cross-cutting competencies, including in cognitive, social, emotional, and behavioral dimension of learning, that it cut across the whole all disciplines. And through education for sustainable development, that learners and as a higher education institution able to develop the competencies for a sustainable future. And it is not just to raise knowledge and awareness, but it is also for our it is our responsible that our learners will be able to understand better about sustainability challenges, about the global challenges, and for them to be able to build the core values. So yesterday also from our speaker also mentioned about values. Okay, so values-based education is also uh, um, uh, should be embedded together in the academic program so that our students will be able to take more practical action for sustainable transformation, not just for the learner themselves, but also for society and uh, uh, society and the country, okay, the nation. So, what is education for sustainable development concept? We're talking about how um, there are 5 priority areas, okay, and there are 8 key competencies. Right now, the 5 priority areas are advancing policy. That means when you the institution, for example, able to develop a policy to integrate ESD in the curriculum. Now, we know that um, we in one institution, okay, um, we have each faculty will have their own strength and their own expertise. So when we want to design our curriculum, and we want to ensure that we need to identify what are the sustainable development goals that you can contribute. So you have to determine which SDGs that your discipline, your faculty will be able to contribute. We know, and in the center or the management will have to coordinate to ensure that all the 17 um, goals would be addressed by the whole institution. But each of the faculties will have their own strength. They will not be able to contribute to the 17. So it has to be well coordinated. So all this will be done in by the governance or the management of the universities. So that is one example of advancing policy. Second is transformation of the learning environment, where um, it will provide a better platform. Okay, we have to identify when we whether or not the whole ecosystem is actually supporting our initiatives. Okay, not just in terms of the curriculum development, but also the activities and the other infrastructure and the whole ecosystem that can help to support or as an enabler for the transformation, and provide the educators capacity, building the capacity of educators. So we are now what we call as 21st century educators. Yesterday also we can see that our speakers mentioned about how we should be able to learn, unlearn and relearn. We should be able to be co-creators and also co-learners with our students. So by developing the educators' capacity in designing the learning activities and assessments, and which are relevant to the sustainable development goal, we are preparing our educators uh, uh, to guide or to facilitate our learners, our Gen Z learners for sustainability, and also mobilizing youth, for example, empowering and mobilizing youth. That is the number 4 pillar in education ESD for 2030, where um, when we say this initiative actually help not just focusing on the academic program, but working with other other faculties or other centers that focusing on the initiatives in exposing or um, designing the programs for learners. And also lastly will be the community, accelerating local needs action by the community. This is to ensure that the local communities are empowered. Okay, so this will be one of the main platforms in all the what we call as the priority area of ESD for 2030. Okay, so the ESD for 2030, the target is the policymakers because they need to build or establish the policies, institutional leaders, learners, parents, educators, youth, and communities. So these are the 5 priority areas for education for sustainable development. And so through pursuing these goals and objective in uh, ESD for 2030, so when this was launched in 5 years ago, so the aim is to create a world in which the governments mainstream ESD in their education policies. So the target is by 2030, all higher education institution in the world, not just higher education institution, but all the education level will be able to teach about sustainability. Okay, empower them, empower the youth. The educators have been trained and develop that capacity to foster, to nurture the societal transformation through their learners, and the learners will be able to have the knowledge, the skill, the values, and the attitude just now, so that they will be able to promote the sustainable development and achieving the 17 SDG. And the people or the community across the world will be able to recognize ESD as the key instrument and lifelong learning opportunity to achieve the sustainability in that local level. So that is the goal and the objective. Now, so when we um, when we talk about education for sustainable development, and when we design our program, curriculum, and also the uh, program structure, and also courses, we should address through the ESD competencies. That is for me. We are looking, when we map to SDG, how do we actually address it? How do we address that? The student will be able to contribute to the SDG, and the one of the our concern is, I think, the concern of our educators is, the question is how do we measure that our students have able to acquire the skill set needed? So what would be the competencies in sustainability? So first is systems thinking. Okay, and then there are 8 of them. Anticipatory thinking, normative, strategic thinking, collaboration, critical thinking, self-awareness, and integrated problem solving. These are the 8 key competencies. Okay. Now, for us in Malaysia, compared to the ESD competencies, we have the current clusters of learning outcome, as I mentioned earlier, where 5 clusters of learning outcome that there are a few of the that actually almost the same as the sustainability competencies like the critical thinking. So we have also here on interpersonal skill, okay, like collaboration is interpersonal skill, or ethics and professionalism, for example. So these sustainability competencies that will be embedded in the course learning outcome, okay. So as an educator, you need to be able to identify what are the courses, okay, that will be embedded with these key competencies. For example, systems thinking competencies. Now, this this is one of the most important. This is actually the first key competencies for sustainability. And in the World Economic Forum Future Jobs Report, okay, if ever since even last year and this year also, systems thinkings are actually the one of the top 10 skill demands. Okay, now when a learner with the systems thinking competency, they are able to analyze complex system, able to connect from one domain to another, okay, different domains. So this system thinking will be able, the learner will be able to recognize and understand relationships, the interconnectedness between different domains. That is system thinking competency, compared to critical thinking competencies, for example, which is actually the learners will be able to question norms and reflect on one's values, perceptions and actions. Anticipatory competency. Okay, this is one of the I actually very interested in these anticipatory competencies, because my approach of um lecture is lecture by questioning. So we get our students to be to engage them through lecture by questioning. You ask questions and students will be able, of course you need to prepare your students, before they come to class, through flipped classroom, for example. And then during the class you get your students to engage with these activities that students would be able to uh, anticipate, question. We create problem based or case studies that student will be able to create their own vision of the future, assess the actions, the consequences of the actions that they have taken. Okay, so system thinking, anticipatory and critical thinking competencies, that is what they call as the ways of thinking. So that is part of the head. Okay, head, hands, that is ways of practicing, and then ways of being is the heart, right? So ways of practicing integrated problem solving competencies, if you compare to the normal critical thinking problem solving, is for integrated problem solving competencies, students will be able to apply different problem solving framework to complex sustainability problems. So when we design our programs, design the course learning outcome, and embedding this integrated problem solving competencies in the course learning outcome, meaning that the learning activities that we're going to design also will need to ensure that the learners will be develop this skill set, okay, or these key competencies. So the integrated problem solving competency will be able to promote, so the learners will be able to propose solutions that promote sustainability development, and also integrating other type of other competencies. And of course the collaboration competencies is about learning for others. We introduce we are so used to peer learning or pedagogy. We used to introduce heutagogy, or what we call as self-determined learners, and also cybergogy, learning in the virtual learning environment. Okay, and we also introduce, teamwork skill, team spirit, for example. But in collaboration competencies, learners, they are not just learn from others, but the learners, they need to be able to understand, to relate, and to be sensitive of others. This is where part of the what we call the values-based education also are introduced. Empathy, social responsibilities. Okay, and the next competency is strategic competencies, where this when students were given issues or global challenges, okay, and with the other anticipatory competencies, for example, students need to come up with ideas strategically, okay, and they have to design, or they have to be creative and innovative in designing the solution. Okay, so that is part of the strategic competencies. And lastly, there are two competencies that shows actually hard ways of being. It's called the self-awareness competency, that the learners need to reflect, okay, their role, their personal individual role. They should be able to identify what are the roles of the community, the governance, for example. And lastly, normative competencies. That means they understand and reflect on the norms and values that underlie their own action. So these are the 8 key competencies that will reflect how our learners will acquire the knowledge, skill, value, and attitude for sustainability. So when we talk about mapping the course program, the course outcomes and the program outcome to SDG, it is actually through these key competencies. Okay, so this is just another way of looking at it, the ways of thinking, ways of practicing, and ways of being on the 8 key competencies. Okay, where this one is one example where when, let's say, if we are talking about SDG 7, affordable and clean energy. So the specific, when we design our course learning outcome, okay, or course learning objectives, they call some of them use it as learning objective. So the cognitive domain that is comprising of the knowledge and thinking skill that is necessary to better understand SDG. So we need to, when developing the course learning outcome, we want to make sure that we use the action verb, okay, the correct or the relevant action verb related to the competencies and also the SDG that you have determined. So for example, for SDG 7, the learner knows about different energy resources. Okay, so that is the cognitive domain. For the heart, which is actually the socio-emotional domain, that includes social skills that enable learners to collaborate, negotiate, and communicate to promote SDG. So for SDG 7, for example, learner is able to cooperate and collaborate with others to transfer and adapt energy technologies. That is one example. And for the functional skills or practical skills through the behavioral domain, that is described the action competencies. So the learning objective that can be designed is learner able to apply and evaluate measures in order to increase energy efficiencies. Okay. This is one example that was given by UNESCO. Okay. This can be downloaded through the website. It is called the learning objective for all for the it's called the learning objective, and it can they have all the learning objective for all the 17 goals. Okay, so with advanced HE in the UK, in their guideline, they have also described in detail what are the 8 key competencies where students will be able to display or demonstrate the competencies, right? As I mentioned earlier. So these are the 8 key competencies. Now, I would like also to highlight here where some people may be they are very familiar with ESG. Okay, I do believe that in higher education, for us as educators, although ESG is important, but ESG is more specific to business and investments and companies, focusing on the operational and financial impact of sustainability. But in our higher education, in developing or designing the academic program, we will be focusing on education for sustainable development, because ESG is broader and it is actually applied to all level of education and community engagement, and focusing on learning and development. However, having said that, in the higher education institution or higher learning institution, it is also important for us to have the knowledge on ESG, or the environmental, social, and governance. That how we can collaborate with these agencies and companies, so that we would be contributing together for sustainability, and this will reflect on how the initiatives and programs in the higher education institution that work collaboratively, strategic partners to contribute for sustainability. So the ESG for 2030, there are also many countries' initiatives. You can see that there are every year there will be reports on the ESG for 2030 country initiatives, and United Nations, UNESCO has called upon academic institutions to make ESG a core component in all educational offering by 2025. Okay. And UNESCO also declares that environmental education must be a core curriculum component by 2025, which is now we are at the last quarter of 2025. And for example, in Malaysia, there are many activities that we work closely with UNESCO. I just take these two, for example, on zero hunger and quality education, where initiatives and programs and working together with the partners, contributing partners, and also the implementing partners, different NGOs and organizations, and also ministries. Okay, and so what needs to be done in higher education institutions? First of all, we need to, based on the 5 priority areas, and we are looking at the 8 key competencies just now, in the ESD roadmap or 2030 roadmap, we at the higher education institution, we need to make that transformation by in pedagogy and learning environment. We need to uh, revise our learning outcome so that it will empower people to take that responsibility again. And we need to integrate these sustainability development in issues in the learning contents, so that the this will actually enable the achievement of the SDG in to make it, to scale up that societal transformation. And that can happen in the faculty and school level, where we redesign the learning outcome, learning content, redesign, enhance the learning pedagogy and learning environment. At the university level, will be the 5 priority areas just now: advancing the policy, transforming learning environment, building capacity of educators, empowering and mobilizing youth, and accelerating local level action. At the country level, implementation of the ESD 2030 roadmap, where it should be, there should be a structured communication, okay, to take action and to be able to mobilize resources, and through implementation and monitoring through progress, okay, work together with partners and collaborators, okay. So that's how we can actually scale up and empower education for sustainable development. So there are myriads of these global challenges that when we talk about um, global challenges in the 21st century, poverty, sustainable, we have um issues in the energies, environmental degradation, waste management. We have issues in aging infrastructure, for example. Even in Malaysia, we will have by 2030, we have this what we call the aging nation also. So how do we embed, okay, how do we embed ESD based on the discipline? For example, if your the one of the discipline is blockchain, for example, okay, you can identify based on your expertise and your you are the subject matter expert, okay, based on your capacity, identify and determine how you can, based on that discipline, contribute to the one of the SDGs. For example, blockchain, it can contribute to all these 17 of SDG through smart IoT management system, for example, for SDG 6. Gender equality through microcredit, ICT literacy. There, so and there and for example, in zero hunger, sustainable and traceable food production through using blockchain, right? So quality education, education records and certification. When we develop micro credentials, so the learners will have will acquire, they will obtain digital badges, right? Those are credentials, and those digital badges, if they are embedded with blockchains, right? Those that will be blockchain can help to validate and verify their credentials. Okay, So that is in blockchain. From my background, for example, as a microbiologist, so how fungi, okay, can contribute to sustainable the 17 goals, the 17 SDGs. Of course, from here we can see that not all of the goals we can actually contribute. So if let's say in zero hunger, through fungi can help in the agriculture, okay, in composting, in waste management, in life on land, for example, and help in reduce water consumption in industrial processes. So what I'm trying to say is, as the subject matter experts in your discipline, you are the ones who should be identifying and determining the how you can contribute to each of the SDGs. This is another example for lakes and reservoirs. Okay, how contribute to each of the SDG. Okay, so this is one of the example that, because we have different approaches in mapping our courses to the SDGs. Now, I'm showing some of the examples because this is when before the key competencies were introduced. Okay, the global sustainability agenda in the program. Our earlier practice was courses, each of the course is aligned to the certain number of SDGs. Okay, and this also being practices in a few of the universities. So meaning that you can identify courses that you can contribute to certain numbers of SDGs, whether it is a core course or elective course. So this is like the very direct mapping. Okay. Some of our universities, they have their own system, okay, that already embedded with the SDGs at the course learning outcome level. So from here, for example, you can see like you can see here CLO 1, course learning outcome 1, illustrate sufficient skills and knowledge in order to perform as effective engineers, managers, and leaders in operating in multi-ethnic and multicultural environment. So SDG mapping to SDG 17, for example. Okay, so this is for the course learning outcome 1. Course learning outcome 2, demonstrate knowledge and skill of engineering and management principles in leadership and teamwork. This is SDG 08 and SDG 12. So this is the earlier part when when we introduce, some of the universities have done this where either the earlier one when we introduce not just based on courses, but this university have determined to embed the SDG at course learning outcome level. Okay, and it is using a system not manually. So they have developed the system. But now we are not just identify the SDGs at course level, we are also embedding the key competencies, the 8 key competencies. So for Malaysian, for Universiti Putra Malaysia, we our niche is actually agriculture, and we have developed what we call the Universiti Putra Malaysia Food Security Blueprint, right? And one of the the core thrust in the blueprint is the academic excellence. And from the blueprint, for food, we have for food security in academic excellence, the outcome that we are expected from the framework is, for example, number one, as students as agropreneur. Okay, students as agropreneur, students as agent of change for zero hunger. The faculty will be able to empower equality, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and justice for zero hunger. Community agriculture engagement, research and knowledge exchange, increase employability, and food safety and nutrition, and students as partners. So that will be the goal for academic excellence in food security. And of course, the 5 Ps, which is people, planet, peace, prosperity, and partnership. And if you look at the these are actually the faculties in our universities, and these are the 8 key competencies, and these are the 5 priority areas. Okay, so the center here is actually the education for sustained development for food security. So in order to make that transformation, we know now that we have to embed or integrate or infuse, okay, the key competencies in the curriculum. And in order for that to happen, the faculties need to make certain transformation, okay, especially in the pedagogy, in the approach. We are not just looking at how, if we can design nicely, very structured, very practical document of the curriculum, but if we're going to teach conventionally the way we teach 20 years ago, nothing will be changed. So that's why when you look at the 5 priority areas of education for sustainable development, where you need to make the transformation in the learning environment, and also the building capacity for educators, right? So it has to be about empowering the students. The pedagogy, the approach must be, the teaching method must be changed. So we need to empower the students so that they can take charge of their own learning. This is Gen Z, and coming soon, this is Gen Alpha. They are more sustainability conscious. They are more conscious about sustainability. They're more they can be very anxious, you know. They can even develop anxieties very quickly. So as educators, we need to understand better our learners. these Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They want to speak out their mind. They want to be empowered. So we need to create that opportunity and experience for them. We need to be able to make sense of what they're learning in the classroom. Okay. In order to do that, we need to relate to the real world problem, real world issues, relate to the daily life, So the real world issues is the example that we need to give them so that they will be able to relate is the sustainable issues, the global challenges that we mentioned just now. So and and also we want to make sure that they will be able to work collaboratively, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary. So this is again in this 21st century is not about working in silo. This is a not this is it should not be fragmented. Okay, so we need to get our students to work collaboratively, and again, experiential learning. If the students that if the learners when we if they're just going to listen to you in your class and finish all these 99 slides, for example, they are not going to experience anything. They cannot be innovative. They will not be able. It is your responsibility. It is our responsibility to unleash their creative potential, and through experiential learning. And lastly, we need them to be able to reflect. We need to evaluate them, to assess them, to stimulate their further growth, to make that intervention. Okay, so I think most of us here, we have been doing it, that is our practice. But now in order for us to facilitate or to guide our students to acquire the knowledge, the skill, the values and attitude for sustainability, we need to tweak our the way we teach and embed about sustainability issues. Okay, and of course, uh, um, in terms of the I'm not sure about how some of the universities in India, for example, in terms of the governance, but most of our educators, the practice is it has to be top down. Okay, when it's not, when we actually started, to small initiative, and it is bottom up, it will take a longer time. So that's why it is the first priority area in the education for sustainable development is to advancing the policy. So that means you have to establish the policy. We will have to embed education for sustainable development in our curriculum. We have to map that with the certain SDGs, and it has to be a policy, right? And not just in terms of when we have this policy, then the faculty, they have to start planning. They have to have the strategic ideas and planning and action to align with the SDGs and the involved in the program development. Learning environment, the green campus learning environment. Well, some of the universities, they have what we call the inclusive campus or inclusive college. Okay, and also there there are many other initiatives and programs that actually help the to provide a green technology campus, for example. Okay, they have, for example, sustainability tours, um, or um, to create awareness in terms of through infographics, through redesigning the walls or learning spaces, for example, and building again initiatives like continuous professional development or CPD, where we have what we call the cafe series, sharing. We every week, about 1 hour, we will be sharing about sustainability with our educators. So we need to create that platform, right? And there are many ways to assess the students' competencies, either through like what we see here, like this, like a spider web. Okay, um, we can see how we can even create that 8 key competencies from here, or through this spider web, we can also identify um, between the between the 5 priority areas also. Okay, so with all that, I'm sharing a little bit on what are the initiatives that we have in Malaysia for sustainability, especially in aligning with what we call the national education philosophy. So this national education philosophy was developed in 1988, and it has become an act in 1996. If you can see here, to produce individual that is holistic, integrated manner, individuals who are intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically balanced and harmonious. Okay, so that they are more knowledgeable, competent, and for being able to contribute to the harmony and betterment of the family, the society, and the nation at large. So we are launching our new Malaysia Higher Education Blueprint. So focusing on now, not just value based driven, but values internalized and impact driven. So we are talking about from industry ready job seekers to industry job creators, and also from the structured education to unbundling the education for lifelong and life-wide. So that's why you see, when before this 2015 2025, we have the 10 shifts of the blueprint, Malaysia Higher Education Blueprint. But moving forward with 2026 and 2030, we now have the new shifts where you look at number shift 1, humanity-centric, entrepreneurial, and adaptive learners. Okay, that's number 1. And then if you look at shift number 8 is flexible education and lifelong learning. And number 9 here, planetary health and sustainability. So the whole roadmap, okay, for higher education for the next 10 years, it has now been developed, and one of the shift that is being emphasized, the new one, is on the planetary health and sustainability. And all these shifts, actually, the goal is to produce humanity-centric, purpose-driven nation builders. Okay, so with all the other framework and all that will actually contribute to the to the planetary health and sustainability. And we mentioned just now, we just do not just having the SDGs, the competencies, we also want to embed values-based education. So the values-based education guideline is now being developed, and there are 6 core values that are emphasized in the values-based education. One is dignity, that emphasizes on the respect and empathy. Okay, justice focuses on the fairness and equality in social structures. Integrity highlights honesty and accountability in personal and professional conduct. Gratitude promotes appreciation and mindfulness in daily life. Resilience encourages courage and self-reliance in facing challenges. And altruism advocates for generosity and communal spirits in action. So these are the 6 core values in 6 core values in values-based education. Okay, so how do we what would be the approaches? Okay, how do we approach this in designing our learning activities? So compassionate pedagogies is introduced. Okay, there are many other pedagogies that we have been practicing, but compassionate pedagogies is not just about creating more empathetic individual, but we are preparing our learners to be resilient, to be agile, to be adaptive, to be future ready. So these learners, they will not just only have the technical skill, okay, based on the discipline, but they also have the emotional intelligence, ethical grounding, and they are able to navigate complex challenges. So what are these compassionate pedagogies have been practiced, or they are being practiced also by, for example, in the University College London, Universities of Edinburgh, Stanford College in the US, for example. So it's about co-creating and designing. There's so many so many ways in emphasizing about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but also they made a academic standard that is with clarity and kindness. And the implementation of the compassionate pedagogy, this is to, in UCL, for example, to create and foster well-being and connection, while it is, we still maintain the academic standard. Okay, so these are some of the example. Okay, when, I'm sorry, this is in Malay language, but what I'm trying to show is the just now I mentioned about the course learning outcome, but when we design our program learning outcome and the educational program objective also, we align with the key competencies. So the course learning outcome, these are all the PL or the program learning outcome. Okay, and we have what we call at this, the 12th program learning outcome is the sustainability competencies here. So this one, for example, for this particular course, okay, is called the human biology. The credit is 3 credits, and this is the SDG. Okay, the SDG, and these are the 8 keys competencies. So for the whole program, okay, this is for medical program. Okay, medical program. There are 10 semesters, 5 years, right? So the idea of embedding the key competencies is our policy is each semester there must be at least one course that will be embedded with the key competencies. So we have 8 key competencies here, right? So there are 5-year course. So 5 years course, we have 10 courses. So these are the number of credits. These are the SDGs that they have chosen. So for this particular program, the SDGs that they have determined is SDG 3, which is actually health and well-being, and SDG 13. Okay, so these are the 8 key competencies: systems thinking competencies, anticipatory competencies, critical thinking competencies, strategic, collaboration, integrated problem solving, self-awareness, and normative competencies. So human biology, they have chosen system thinking competencies. For infectious diseases, they have chosen anticipatory competencies and critical thinking competencies. So minimum can be just one key competencies for one course, or it can be, we encourage to be just 2 competencies for one course. So meaning within the 5 years, they're able to cover the 8 key competencies in their program. Okay. So since I'm teaching microbiology, I have embedded the ESD in my program, in my courses, and we also create assignment or project based on the SDGs. For example, this is called the Invisible Heroes: Microbes and Planetary Health. So the module is for them to create videos, identify the SDGs, the microbe that contribute to the habitat, because this is about microbiome ecology. So and then identify the SDGs. So students create videos, and they have to feature the microbe that they have selected and how these microbes contribute to the habitat that they have chosen. We create competitions that promote microbial technology for sustainable future. For example, this is MINIC, Microbes Invention, Innovation and Ideation Challenge. We have what we call the COIL SDG Challenge, Collaborative Online International Learning. This is between us and the UK universities, 16 of the UK universities. We are looking forward, if to work with your universities on this COIL approach. Of course, using AI. This one I designed for my course on microbiome ecology. We based on the concept of escape room. Okay, so this is like scavenger hunt. Students will have to solve the clue to open the chest, and it goes based on the notes that are given. So education for sustainable development is to promote global citizenship, foster critical thinking and innovation, and it will actually help students to promote sustainability competence and prepare our young people to meet the challenges of the 21st century. And it also help in as a catalyst, as a change agent. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was highly fruitful session, full of so many fruitful insight. In fact, you have covered all the aspects which can be delivered in this particular theme. So we are highly grateful to you, and the session has given us many key takeaways that how we can integrate SDGs into program and course outcome that aligns education with global sustainability goals. It also helped us to understand how outcome-based learning can connect academic knowledge with the real-world challenges, and how it can enhance institutional contribution towards national and UN development goals. And it also empowered the faculty to design innovative, social relevant, and interdisciplinary curricula. And definitely we are going to help our student to become responsible and sustainability driven professional after attending this session. So thank you so much. And if is there any question, I request the participant to please drop that question in the chat box.
Is there any question? I'm happy to.
Very good evening, ma'am. This is Pradeep Kumar Verma from Teerthanker Mahaveer University.
Thank
I have
you.
a question am I audible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As we see that you belongs to Malaysia, someone belongs to USA, someone belongs to Shillong or somewhere, other countries, right? And we
Yes.
are in India. And SDG is basically given by the UN, and they are, equally deployed or equally provided to everyone. How you see that the education sector is matching to each other under the SDG or not?
Okay. Education sector.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the earlier when UNESCO launched in 2015 SDG, the 17 goals in 2015, and we have this number 4, quality education, right?
Quality education.
SDG for education, and ESD was actually introduced then also about much earlier, but when I think there are many people who actually misinterpret of quality education, because when they think of education for sustainable development, they were thinking only number 4, SDG 4, for quality education. But ESD is cut across the whole 17 SDGs. And these 17 SDGs are actually, each of them is actually the issues that we need to address. The 17 issues that we need to address. So be it you are in India, in Malaysia, or in other country in the world, we have these 17 issues that we need to address. And whether or not all these 17 issues are happening in your countries or not happen, or certain the issues are not happening, as educators in higher education, we need to create that awareness to our students, because they might not be, after they study in, they have the experience, they're from your universities, from our university, they might not be in India, they might not be in Malaysia, we want them to be able to contribute equally whatever their locality. So if we say that, whether this is applicable or not to based on the country, I think the issues, the 17 issues have been nicely structured and designed, and it is us to identify how can we help or to contribute.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot for kind words.
Ma'am, there is a question in the chat box wherein it is being asked, like, what are the different key competencies? In the table you showed, 8 was there. Can you please say in English? One you said as critical thinking. What are the different key competencies?
The key competencies, the 8 key competencies, the earlier that one that I showed, systems thinking competency, anticipatory competencies, um, collaboration competencies, strategic thinking competencies, normative competencies, self-awareness, and integrated problem solving. There are 8.
Oh, okay. And ma'am, how to measure the attainment of these SDGs? It
Yes.
is also
Okay.
being asked in the box.
That's a good question. You see, that's why when we design the course learning outcome, okay, when we have the course learning outcome, when we add, let's say for this particular course learning outcome, we have this anticipatory competency. We add the AC, anticipatory competencies. So it's just normal. It's just like how we design the course learning outcome to evaluate. Like when we have the Bloom taxonomy, we have C5 is evaluate, right? C6 is create. So when we have C5, for example, evaluate, how do we design our learning activities so that we will know that our student will be able to evaluate. So the learning activities that we design will have to be aligned with the course learning outcome that we create. So it's the same thing. If we design in our course learning outcome, if we have that anticipatory competencies, okay, there are 8. Let's say we take the anticipatory competencies. So when you design the learning activities, you have to make sure that there is the activity where students will be able to demonstrate that they are able to anticipate. How, for example, if you design a task where students need to identify issues in one community, okay, so they will get information from the published newspapers or whatever news about the issues in the community, and you will have to ask students to come up with question to interview them, to interview the community that having the issues. So they have to design the interview question, and then you ask them to come up with the answer scheme. Okay, come up with the answer scheme. Those process, when they come up with the interview questions, come up with the answer scheme, that means you are guiding them on how to develop the anticipatory competencies. And then they have to go to the community to validate the interview questions, and to validate the issues that they have designed, that they have come up with. So that is how you design the learning activities for anticipatory competencies. One example. And then when you assess them, okay, when you design the learning activity, you have to assess them. You have to come up with the rubric. When you come up, how you assess the anticipatory competency, whether or not they have the suitable question, the interview question. Do they provide the suitable answer scheme? Okay, so that rubric will help you to evaluate the competencies. So this is how you measure the attainment, because any learning outcomes, any skill set or competency that you design in your course learning outcome, it has to be assessed. You need to measure it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. And I got a message from one participant. She wants to invite you as a keynote person in their international conference. So with your
I am honored and humbled. Thank you so much.
thank you, and with your permission, I'll be sharing your contact details with her.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much.